All right, it's a beautiful morning in Brooklyn. New York natives, underground art scene. We're here to visit a good friend of mine and one of my favorite artists, Mr. Mike Cockrill. We're gonna go check out, see some of his new work and talk about some of his old work and see what's going on out here in Brooklyn. This is Mr. Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Doing great.
I have always been a huge fan of what you've been doing, and seeing some of your new stuff now. You've changed your style a little bit. But what I'd like to talk to you about is the work that I met you through, which is your clown pieces.
Yeah, I think that these were not intended to be about what America is about, and so a lot of, with the violence and guns and in schools, people think that these paintings, they took on a different meaning than when I was doing them in the 90s. It wasn't about kids shooting other kids. It was really about a reverse of power. Also, girls, I painted girls, and that was really problematic for people that I would paint, like a 9-year-old girl, because people feel very protective of children. So when I gave the girls guns, it was suddenly okay. And for me, why doesn't that bother you? Here we have a boy who's a kind of self-appointed sheriff, I guess. He's watching the execution of these girls that are stringing up this clown.
Also, I feel like, it has this Norman Rockwell essence to it.
So I went on social media, Facebook, and I said, I'm going to break my work apart, which really surprised people to see that I was doing this. And I think at first they were a little bit worried about it. What happened to the girl? What happened to the clowns? What happened to Norman Rockwell? And I've always liked modernism. I wanted to go back and figure that out because I buried it in my own love. It's like I love Picasso and de Kooning and all those modernist people. I needed to get away from them because I love them too much, so I used Norman Rockwell kind of as an escape from 20th century high art. One of my favorite paintings, of course, and I think a lot of people's favorite paintings, is Las Meninas by Velázquez. And I think the girl in that painting has been in my work in various ways. I wanted to revisit her in my new style, and I was thinking of Velázquez, but obviously there's no artist. The artist becomes rays of light. The girl, the princess, with the rose on her chest, becomes a four-armed boy warrior. Someone interpreted it as like a Japanese art eater. She said she reminds me of an art eater.
How has New York inspired you?
I think it's a really interesting question for artists and an interesting question for me. I went to Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and I was painting like Diebenkorn and Hopper when I was in Philadelphia, and I felt like, you could do a decent Diebenkorn painting in Philadelphia and that would work. But when I arrived in New York in 1979, I knew that wasn't going to make it in New York. You could just see the energy level that artists are working at, and you can see the kind of boldness of their work. And it's like, I had to step up. And that's when I drew Kennedy being assassinated. And I did the white papers and cartoon painting. You're feeding off the culture in a way, if it's a dynamic culture. You had, Keith Haring and Basquiat and Schnabel and a lot of people making these amazing artworks. And so how do you compete with that? I think competition is fair to say. A lot of artists say, I don't care about the competition, I just do my own thing. But that's nonsense. You can do your own thing and no one can care about it. The whole point is, do your own thing, but get a dialogue going. If people don't care, don't do it. Get them involved. The viewer is involved. Make the viewer part of the piece, so the viewer brings the dialogue to you and brings the meaning. Another painting I think about time. The guy at his desk, he's like a building. His mouth are the bricks. The facade is cracking. He's being hit by the clock. It's already taken a chunk out. They fall down. So that's my existential man.
What inspired you to start being a painter? Like, what was that moment for you?
I always was painting my whole life. That's the weird part about it. When I was a kid, I was like one of those kids that just give him a pencil. He's acting up in class, give him some pencils and erasers and let him draw. I've always made art, and I think at some point in high school, I also was a writer, and I was a journalist in school, and at some point I decided I want to focus on the painting. So I went to art school, but it was just a decision of, the only decision was, which one do you want to focus on, the writing or the painting? And it was a choice. Some people can do both, but so it was more just taking it seriously than, oh, I want to be an artist. You know, I just, as time went along, I took it more, I wouldn't know what it was like to be anything but an artist. That's the weird part about it.
And anything you want to say to like maybe young artists in New York, or about the art scene, or?
Go around and look at stuff. I mean, the best way to, if you're a young artist in New York, you really want to meet other young artists and get a network going with them.
Great, man. Well, thanks for having me at your studio, man. Good to see you, brother.
Great. Thank you.